Hi, children. Could you bring me a bowl of water? Thank you. What do you think about my makeup? Is it too much? Because when I looked in the mirror, I kind of freaked myself out a little bit, so let me know. I went to the watching experience without knowing much about the movie, skipping all the reviews and spoilers. I didn't even know the rumor that Jordan Peele fired his management team because they lost the rights to produce the movie to New Line Cinema. I also went alone without my emotional support husband, sitting alone in the theater, making little notes in my little notebook. Let's read some of the notes, shall we? Oh, what is this? I am scared. This Paul is a. Thank you, past me. That's very insightful. All jokes aside, even if I knew about all the hype around this film, I still wouldn't walk out disappointed. It is that good. And there were at least 3 scenes that genuinely scared me, which is rare. I think last time I was having such an unsettling feeling while watching the horror was The Ring many years ago. Weapons is written and directed by Zach Krieger. The writing is brilliant, especially due to all the characters. They're flawed, yet very sympathetic. The story pacing is incredible too. It feels like a roller coaster, bringing out the tension and then winding down to more grounded scenes, keeping viewer anxious, waiting what's going to happen next. I also liked cinematography by Larkin Seipel. He made Everything Everywhere All at Once happen, Beef, and many more amazing projects. Seipel did an amazing job with light and camera angles. There was clear separation between day and night scenes. The night scenes were not too dark, and I think we are finally overusing that god-awful bluish color correction in horror. The camera angles play a huge role in showing the character's perspective. In the first few scenes, we see the back of Justine's head, Julia Garner's character. We just see back of her head a lot, and it makes us feel like we're almost peeking, we're almost following the character, stalking her, or watching her from behind. And then the camera slowly shifts to showcase her face very up close, and it's almost like it shifts our perspective to see the Justine's point of view, and I really love that trick. The story feels like an old fairy tale, the unreducted original version, not the Disney kind, and I really appreciate the folklore themes in horror. It brings back that feeling of reading a scary story at night and not being able to fall asleep because you feel like someone is watching you. Let's get into some spoilers. I'm not going to spoil the entire movie, but I assume you've already seen it if you're watching this review. But I still don't want to get into too much detail about the story because I feel like it's not really necessary. The story focuses on disappearance of 17 children who mysteriously ran away from their homes on the same night at the same time around 2:17 a.m. Only one boy, Alex Lilly, showed up to school the next morning. I would personally divide this movie into 2 parts, before and after the mystery unravels. The first part has been more of a mystical thriller and drama, and the second part has more of a slasher dynamic feel. The first half is definitely scarier, delivering a few very effective jump scare scenes, which a lot of modern, highbrow horror movies kind of shy away from recently, but I think it works. It really worked in this movie, at least. The ceiling scene killed me. It was absolutely terrifying. I was not ready. And the scene with scissors looked so uncanny. Some people found it funny. I personally thought it was terrifying because, again, I was almost alone in the theater, and even though I'm pretty desensitized to horror, I felt uncomfortable. The story is shown from a few perspectives. First, Justine, the class's teacher, then Archer Graff, one of the parents, Paul Morgan, Justine's lover, and the police officer, Marcus Miller, the school director, principal, James, the young homeless guy who found himself wrapped into this story accidentally, and finally Alex, the boy who survived. I love that we got to spend time with each characters, mainly because we could see their lives, their motivations, their flaws, and their humanity, and also peel off the layers of mystery slowly. Many people complain that pacing seemed a little too slow for them. I didn't even notice the passing of time. After we met Gladys, the witch that lured the children to Alex's house and trapped his parents into catatonic, zombie-like state in order to drain their life force and live forever, the mystery and the tension surrounding it almost elevates. So the next act it relies on the action scenes and some body horror to keep viewers on their toes. Amy Madigan was fantastic as Gladys. I think I couldn't do a better job than her. Actually finished filming, but I wanted to add something about Gladys. Gladys, to me, I think she's like an eldritch creature. She is not a human. How I see, okay, it's not 100%, okay, because we don't have an explanation. But how I see it is that she might have been a human in the past, but she might have lost her humanity. We also see a lot of mentions of her of a parasite, like in the classroom and on TV, and that might be like the clue of the way that she operates, or maybe the way that her nature is, like how she is parasitic. I think it's pretty clear that she's ancient, that she's very old, maybe like 17th century to 16th century. I also don't think, and I think it's also pretty obvious that she's actually Alex's aunt. I think she deceived his family. However, we don't know. Maybe she's his distant relative and she kind of feels attached to him in some way. Maybe she's his great aunt and he didn't know. And maybe that's why he was able to lift the curse and use the magic by himself. Not just because he used the thorned, like stick of the wish to break the spell, but because he has a magic mojo himself. How's that for a theory? Let me know. Many people compare her to Pennywise due to her clownish makeup and mannerisms. However, I feel like Weapons achieved what the latest adaptation of It couldn't. I feel like It did a better job with the mystery factor, with the tension. What sets Weapons apart is beautiful storytelling and the use of cinematography. It kind of elevates it to another level, makes it more intense. Whereas it was beautifully done, and I enjoyed the movie, but I feel like it was not scary enough. Let's talk about the movie themes. The film is very thematically rich, tackling so many things like grief, trauma, addiction, parentification. Parentification is a trauma when a child has to assume the role of a parent to their guardians, to their parents, due to their guardians or their parents' inability to take care of themselves or their children. Also, broken institution, police brutality, and corruption. And while movie tackles such serious themes, it still allows for some humor and ironic, dark undertones that are pretty unique to horror genre. So let's break down how these themes are shown in the movie. Zach Krieger mentioned in many of his interviews that each character represents the part of him that was going through grief after losing his friend. You could even make an argument that was showing stages of grief. I don't know how deliberate it was, because Zach himself told many times that the writing was very intuitive. He didn't know how the story was going to end when he started writing. But I assume Justine represents desperation and addiction, maybe a bit of denial, because she really is trying to do everything to try to get the kids back. She's trying to investigate, and even though she's been turned down and having roadblocks put in front of her left and right, she still persists and tries to find the children because she feels guilt as well. So that's another emotion. I feel like Julia Garner's character was really like multifaceted, and she did a great job portraying her. Archer, one of the parents, played by Josh Brolin, who did again fantastic job showing a concerned parent. I don't think anybody could do a better job than him, honestly. He is also showing some guilt and mainly anger, misdirected anger. He's trying to put the blame on Julia Garner's character. He is just being very irritated, very emotional. But he was the one who helped solve the mystery of missing children because police couldn't do a good job. Well, they barely did anything, actually, apart from being complete assholes, maybe. So Archer, he looked at the Ring camera and he saw where his kid was running, like the general direction. He made a line on the map, and then he went to other parents and tried to look at the footage of their child running out of the house, and just drew some few lines, and it turns out that they all overlap in that particular house where the boy and who didn't run away and his family, that's where they live. And it kind of showcases the absolute inadequacy and unprofessionalism of police in the small town, and I think that's pretty realistic. Paul Morgan, the police officer, and Julia Garner's lover, I think he also represents addiction because he's battling with it, and denial, I think, because as he is battling with his addiction, he denies that he has issues, and he bottles it up, and then all of his pent-up anger kind of bursts out at work. He has no business working in the law enforcement. So he lashes out at people. He is acting unprofessionally and erratically, and he is dealing with infidelity. I mean, his wife is dealing with infidelity. He is committing infidelity. We don't know what kind of demons Paul is hiding, but we know that this man is deeply troubled. Also, when Paul is talking to Justine at the bar, she's complaining to him that the whole town thinks that she's a witch and that she's to blame for disappearances of children. He kind of dismisses her struggles. He says, "Oh, you're so woe is me, get out of your head." And I think that's kind of a denial part of him, or sort of how he deals with his troubles. He just dismisses things, bottles it up, and then everything just blows out. Gladness herself, I think, represents grief. The way it consumes people, leaves them paralyzed, makes them do things that they would otherwise would not do. And I think it's a beautiful representation. It's ugly, it's uncanny, and it's all-encompassing, and that's what grief is. But even though this is a very personal story, this story doesn't exist in a vacuum, so that's why we have all those themes that are larger than just individual story, like the collective grief, the institutional injustices, the way that children in this country and in the world have to fend for themselves, have to save themselves, because adults most of the time do not do anything to protect children. The ending is also akin to old-fashioned, unredacted fairy tale. After the curse is lifted and the witch died, the parents of Alex do not return to normal. They still act like zombies, and they end up in the institutions, and most of the kids did not return to normal immediately either. I assume Gladys was consuming their souls, and because she didn't get to fully consume all of them, some of them started talking and perhaps returning to normal, just like it's stated at the end by the narrator. However, it might have to do with children being more resilient and having more life energy to their youth, so they have more chance of recovery. The movie reminded me of the show Nosferatu, criminally underrated show based on Joe Hill's novels. It's also similar to a Pied Piper fairy tale. The children running out of the house and disappear. Thematically, the movie and the show is very similar, so I really recommend you checking it out. So why Weapons? Why the movie was called Weapons? Pretty much the main reason why it was called Weapons is on the very surface level. Gladys uses children to attain life energy and youth, and also she uses children and other characters as weapons in her games or in order to protect herself. We can also kind of draw parallels how a lot of times children are used as weapons in propaganda, political games, and maybe that's what the author kind of wanted to point to, but he never mentioned that in his interviews. I think it makes sense, but it makes sense to me personally. So overall, I really enjoyed that movie. It's great. I highly recommend you watch it if you haven't already. Thank you for listening and watching. Please subscribe, leave a comment, leave a critique. I really appreciate your input. Have a great day and bye, children.